Alright, so if you're watching this video, you are still struggling with how to unpack a prompt, so that's exactly what we're going to do um, to figure out how you can write a successful paper 2. So what I've taken here is a prompt directly from last year's paper 2, I believe. Yep, 2016. Um, so again, paper 2 has a bunch of questions on it, right? You are going to go straight to drama and pick one. Luckily, they gave 3 questions. I've only seen 2 most often. So that's great. So anyway, I picked the third one because I think that sounds most appealing to me. Anyway, so you would be given reading time. You'd read through all of them, and then you would also start to select which one do you think you could best answer, right? Number 1 is one of those ones where it's like, that is a ridiculous question that's going to be really hard to answer, right? Number 2 and 3 are much more reasonable. So I'm going to go with 3 because I'm sure many of you could think of some ideas, right? So anyway, I've made my choice. The next step is to actually start marking it, right? After I've read it actively, after I've made my choice. So I'm just going to read it out loud real quick. In drama, an exciting force, a key thought, action, or event, works as a catalyst to begin the central conflict. Comparing at least 2 of the plays you have studied, what serves as the exciting force, and how is it significant to the meaning of the play? Okay, so annotating. I'm going to use my little highlighter tool, but we got to look at the command words. We know that we've got to compare. That's one that stands out to me. Um, we know that let's see, comparing at least to what serves. So this is going to ask you to imply, or I'm sorry, it's implying explaining. And so is this. How is it significant? So you got to explain significance, right? So you got to compare, you got to identify what serves, and you've got to explain its significance. Okay. Next, we've got to look for literary words. So let's see. In drama, an exciting force. Exciting force. I don't know if that's a literary word, but this is key thought, action, action. What is going on? Anyway, you get the idea. Event works as a catalyst to begin the central conflict. That is super literary. Exciting force. There's that word again, to the meaning of the play. Okay, those are my literary words, and now any other important words. Exciting force is super important, I think. Catalyst. That word seems pretty important. Begin the central conflict. Meaning of the play. That's also significant. Okay, so I've done my work here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write out what my job is. My job, and you write this right on the prompt, right? You can write this on the prompt, you can write this on your plan paper, it's up to you. My job is to, identify an exciting force in 2 plays and explain how that force contributed to the central conflict and the overall significance of the play. Okay, that is what my job is, and I think I've covered everything, right? Okay. My next step is to begin brainstorming some ideas, right? And remember, I'm going to use my handy dandy little notebook. Just kidding. Anyone watch that show? I've got to figure out what plays I want to use. So, I keep thinking about Mrs. Cheveley as being sort of an exciting force. So I think for sure An Ideal Husband is going to be one play. And then, what is another exciting force? I think there are a couple. There's really none in Waiting for Godot, which might actually make a really good essay, but I don't know if I want to write that essay. Instead, I think I want to focus more on Twelfth Night because there are quite a few exciting forces in that play. Okay, so this question, I think I have to identify just one exciting force, and I have to explain how that exciting force relates to the conflict. So that might be a good way to begin organizing, but I gotta brainstorm first. So I already said, Mrs. Cheveley arrives. She's almost like the personification of the force. Mrs. Cheveley and her blackmail, I think, is the exciting force here. And then in Twelfth Night, I think the exciting force also takes on a character. Viola is the exciting force, and she is Viola as a girl dressing as a man in order to move successfully in her new society. Okay, so I think more specifically, it's Viola. Since the question is asking for a specific action or event, it's Viola determining to dress as a man. Okay, so those are my two events. Now let's think about how they influence the plot. I think that it reflects Robert is forced to face his past. It forces Gertrude, look at that word, force, keeps popping up. Forces Gertrude to face the truth of who she and her husband are. And it also forces, there's that word, so forces Lord Goring to fall into his own marriage plot. Because he sort of, well, does it? I'm not sure about that one. This is brainstorming, so we'll see. What does Viola's do? Okay, Viola makes Orsino fall in love with him as a boy. Makes Olivia fall in love with him. And this is actually really the crux. And then at the end, the reveal untangles the knot of the problem before. And when I say the reveal of her gender. Her gender. You know what I'm looking, another word for makes is forces. So that word's going to be really important, I think. Right, so here's my brainstorming. I've got a couple of things. I've got 3 things here. Did I answer the question, though? How is it significant to the meaning of the play? What am I noticing here? It's almost saying, like, and maybe I put this for both of them, without the exciting force, specifically as a character who makes bold decisions, the conflict would not move anywhere. That's a pretty good observation. Okay, so I've got my brainstorming. I got my job, I broke down the prompt, I got my job, I got my brainstorming. Now I got to think about some kind of thesis for paper 2. I think I've got my implication, therefore suggesting that without the exciting force, specifically as a character who makes bold decisions, the conflict would not move anywhere. So that's my implication, but let's see. Let's figure out my other part. Let's start with an ideal husband. In an ideal husband, let me see if they're using similarities. They are using similarities. So I'm going to use this thesis. In an ideal husband and 12th Night, Oscar Wilde and William Shakespeare provide 2 powerful characters who represent and enact the exciting force through bold decisions that literally and more subtly defy their specific genders, therefore suggesting that without the exciting force, specifically as a character who makes bold decisions beyond their station in life, the conflict would not move anywhere, and lessons, ideas, and self-growth would not be possible. a really good thesis, right? So that is how I came up with a thesis-ish. Maybe I'm going to change it as I do my outline, right? That's one kind of thesis. Maybe if I wanted to, I could have separated it. I could have done in an ideal husband, Oscar Wilde characterizes Mrs. Cheveley as the embodiment of the exciting force of blackmail, thus setting off all modes of conflict in the play. In Twelfth Night, William Shakespeare characterizes Viola as a woman who makes the bold action to dress as a man and thus disrupts the society she shipwrecks upon. Both of these instances show, and then I can just write this down. Okay, so it's the same idea. This one is just a little more concise because I'm using a similarity. This one would work best if I was using a difference, right? They're both great thesis statements. They could both work really well here for this particular assignment here. Okay, so that is how you develop a thesis statement from this particular prompt. Watch the next video to watch how to do an outline.